Hey everybody, it's Harry from Silver Daddy Barbecue, the YouTube channel that teaches you how to master barbecue so you can spread barbecue love. You've seen many of my brisket videos and I have about 15 or 16 videos on how to cook brisket so many different ways. You know that when I wrap my brisket, I like to wrap in either butcher paper or in foil with a little bit of mop liquid in the foil. I've never cooked a brisket before in butter only. So we're gonna try to do this brisket today using a butter method, kind of like a confit style in French style cooking. So we're gonna cook this brisket, get it nice and crusty, and we're gonna put it into a pan and then cover it and smother it with some butter and then cook it until it's perfectly probe tender and compare the results against a conventional brisket that I'm gonna cook side by side with it so we can see which one yields the better result. Let's prepare our butter brisket now, or brisket cooked in butter. I have a regular brisket here. It's a prime, about maybe 10-11 pounds, and we're going to trim it up and put some of my Silver Daddy First Place USA beef seasoning on it, and we'll cook it to perfection. And we'll just basically do the wrap phase in some butter. Well, actually a lot of butter, maybe like, I don't know, 4 pounds of butter in that phase. So this is the purge, so please don't wash your briskets. Throw this carefully in the trash. I will dry your brisket. So you can sharpen your knife. I use a rapid steel. You can get this on my Amazon link. You just run it a few times. And it stays really sharp. We'll do a light trim on the brisket. Just remove some of the silver skin or the fascia so that when I put the rub is gonna be able to touch the meat. Light trim, no injection this time, just a regular home style brisket or a restaurant style brisket. I'm doing is trimming off the excess fat here. If you want to see my competition trim, how to do a competition brisket, I have a lot of brisket videos. So I think a total of 15 to 18 videos now. People always ask me, Harry, why do you have so many videos on how to cook brisket? Well, there are a lot of ways to cook brisket, so I want to show you some of the ways I know. I probably have, I don't know, 30 to 40 different ways to cook brisket, but you know, over the time, I'll show you guys all the different things I've done and all the experiments I like to do. I'm gonna flip it over now and look at the fat cap. I like to trim the fat cap off the point so that I can get burn ends, and more importantly, the bark on both ends. You don't have to do this if you don't want to, but I like to get some really nice char and burn ends, all that wonderful bark. Maillard reaction on the back of the brisket here. The point is, because this is a fatty brisket, it can take the heat and it's not gonna dry out. But if you kind of use a select brisket, you may wanna leave the fat cap on because the select brisket has a lot less fat than a prime grade brisket. I have my brisket here already seasoned, and I'm going to season the second one on camera. For my brisket cooked in butter, I'm gonna show you kind of some variations on how some home style briskets can be cooked. I'm gonna use a few products here. The first one is, this is the au jus beef prep from my co-packer, soupbase.com out of Cleveland. He sells 50 kinds of bases, and a lot of times I use his base here for my brisket. He sells pork bases also, which I've used for my pork entry, and of course chicken base also. So we're gonna use some pork base from soupbase.com, my partner David Sievers, who makes my co-packs, my rub. We're gonna add a little bit of coarse ground pepper. The pepper grind is very important. So in this one I buy specifically filtered, so it's a coarse grind. I don't know how many grit this is, but there's a specification. So when you cook briskets and you want to up your game, even the grind of the pepper is important. So this one is a filtered grit. I don't know, it's 2025 or something, but if you go to the store, you can see that it's very large granules, and I think they work really well on briskets. And on this one here, I always like to use celery seed, which is ground celery seed, so it's finely ground. Please do not use celery seed, because a lot of you have written to me saying use celery seed and the brisket turned out to be a disaster. You're not paying attention. I tell you guys, get ground celery seed. Finely ground is good. And I'm gonna use my First Place USA, KCBS First Place rub here. So first thing I want to do is get some of the schmear on. Get some of the, maybe about 1 tablespoon of schmear, like so. And then give it a nice massage, like so. You want to spread it so that it's nice and even. Just a thin layer goes a long way. About 1 tablespoon on it, and it will create a wonderful coating of umami onto your brisket. And if you do it carefully, you're gonna be able to get a nice smear on it. Now I don't rub the fat cap side, but on this one, I'm gonna rub it on the meat side like so. So if you're running a restaurant, this is a good tip. I'm gonna show you guys how to up your game if you run a restaurant catering business and you want a secret recipe. This is a secret that I know at least some of my students who run restaurants, I taught them this little trick here, where just 1 tablespoon of a good beef base, any brand you want, rub in your brisket before you put your seasonings on, will yield you a special extra oomph of flavor, even if you use salt and pepper. All right, it also creates a nice tacky surface, so I can apply a little bit of my seasoning here. Use my Slap Your Daddy seasoning, nice even coat, like so. Shaken about maybe 8 to 10 inches above the meat. And you can notice how, because I have the liquid tackiness on the surface of the brisket, it's now going to stick very, very nicely. Just a little bit. Now, when I'm using this kind of a base, right, I apply less of my beef rub. So you need to remember that because the base is salty. So cooking competition style food or cooking great food, it's all about balance. It's all about understanding how the ingredients come together, how they fuse to your protein, how they fuse to the smoke, the heat, the draft, the moisture, and the temperature in your pit, right? So that's probably enough. I'm using probably, I want to say, about half or 2/3 of my regular application on the rub itself. I'm going to touch it up with a little bit of celery seed because I like the flavor. Also gives a nice kind of a little note to it that makes your brisket special and stand out. And a little bit of black pepper because, you know, I learned how to cook brisket in Texas, so we like a peppery style brisket. If you don't like pepper, don't put this in. Just skip this part. Everything that I showed you today is optional. You can kind of follow or you can change the technique. I'm not going to get offended if you want to do it your way. So there you have it. Brisket seasoned both ways and is ready to go into the pit. 275. Throw it in here.
Stay.
It's good to spray your brisket when you're cooking it, and I like to spray probably like every hour once the crust begins to set, and then every 30 minutes after that, just spraying with just plain water. The plain water works. It's good enough for First Place USA brisket, so I figured if I can do that with water, why use anything else? So you can go ahead and spray, get a nice bark. It's starting to crust up now, and soon we'll be ready for the next phase, which is to wrap in foil or butcher paper on one of them, and on the other we'll just cook it in butter. Both briskets are beautifully crusted. It's been about 5.5 hours or so at 275. The temperature is about 160-ish, so that this one will be cooked in butter and this one will be cooked conventional way. We'll foil the control brisket now. Has a gorgeous color. Let's cook this brisket in butter, and I've got about 4.5 pounds of butter here. We're going to let the butter melt slowly, let this thing kind of get happy in a butter bath, kind of a confit style. So never cooked a brisket in butter, but it's always the first time. So instead of using the oil or the butcher paper, I'm going to use the butter. See how it comes out. And cook it fat side up because I really want the kind of tenderizing effect to happen on the other side. So let me go ahead and flip it over. We'll change our plans here. And put it fat up. So you see here, when you cook, you gotta kind of always assess, you gotta react, and then adapt and overcome. And this technique of assessing and reacting, adapt and overcome is actually quite important in life. I used to fly airplanes and we always were trained for a bird strike. And they say when it happens, first of all, don't panic. Always assess what happened. Oh, a bird got sucked into the engine, and assess to make sure that you know which engine the bird got sucked in. Because if you have only 2 engines and you rush and you panic and you know you have to shut down the engine with the bird, you might end up shutting the wrong engine, and that's not cool. It's also true in life. Sometimes, you know, in life throws you a curveball. The curveball can come in many ways. Somebody getting sick, getting cancer, Alzheimer's, suicide, and all the things that happen in life. So cooking is kind of like a metaphor for life, in the sense that you have to always assess when something goes wrong, you have to adapt, and you have to overcome. All right, so this brisket is going to now sit in the bath. Hopefully I have enough butter. You're probably gonna ask me, hey Harry, what are you gonna do with all the butter after you're done? I have no idea. So I don't know if I can reuse it, use it to cook more butter dishes. Maybe I'll do that, save the butter. And I'm sure the brisket jus and the butter will make really a good kind of a liquid to cook different things in. So who knows? I'm always happy to find out new ways to do butter. So now I have 7 pounds of butter. Hopefully that's enough to kind of cook this brisket in butter. All right, I'm gonna put it back in the oven. And of course, at this point in time, you don't have to cook this in a pit. You can cook it in the oven because we've already got a crust. It's got enough smoke already. So number one problem I've seen in beginner pitmaster is they over smoke the meat. You don't really need a lot of smoke. Just a kiss of smoke is all you need. So I decided that instead of going and buying more butter to fill a larger pan, we use a little bit of a Bernoulli Principle. So if I have a large container with a lower water level or lower butter level, if I have a smaller container, then I should have a higher level. So what I did was I took the brisket out. I had to cut a little piece off here. Not too bad, just a small piece, and it fits into a lasagna pan. So I'm gonna pour my butter back in so I can do a full confit. I want to try to cover as much as I can, so we're gonna make this thing work somehow. And look at that, it's gonna cover it all the way almost to the top. So this is what I'm going to do to cook the steak in butter. So I think it'll work. The fat cap is up, so most of the meat is swimming in the butter, confit. I'm gonna cook it around 250 until it's super probe tender, and then we'll do a taste test against a conventional brisket to see which one's better. Here's the brisket cooked in butter, and it's nice and tender. So here are the results of my test of the brisket cooked in butter versus a conventional brisket. Appearance-wise, no compare. The conventional brisket looks a lot better with a beautiful bark, smoke ring. This one has a little bit of a smoke ring, but unfortunately the bark has been washed out by sitting in the butter. Flavor-wise, I think that this one tastes better, and this one tastes just a little bit washed out. Also, in terms of the tenderness, this one is okay, but I think that I like the tenderness of this one better. And if I could cook this maybe another extra 30 minutes, I may have got a tough piece here, but okay, this is a much better piece here. So tenderness is about on par, but I think the butter kind of sort of washed away all the flavor. So this one tastes more intense. This one kind of very muted. I don't think I really like the brisket cooked in butter, but this is a test, so if I don't test, I won't know. So from now on, I think I'll stick to the conventional recipe, which I think is better because this yields a pretty darn good Texas-style brisket. So there you have it, another test from Slap Your Daddy Barbecue. I hope you like this little experiment where I cooked a brisket in butter. So this was, in my opinion, kind of a fail, and it didn't work out, but that's why you come to my channel to learn stuff like that. So remember, Harry fails, so you don't have to. If you like this video, please subscribe, like, and share the video. Tell all your friends about my channel. And I want to do a shout out for all my folks on Patreon who are helping me sponsor this video project so I can bring all of these little crazy experiments to you. So until the next time, we will see ya.